The Marquette Law School poll revealed new numbers yesterday in the governor's race. Among likely voters, challenger Mary Burke leads Governor Walker 49 to 47%. But among registered voters, the governor continues to lead. Governor Walker is ahead of Mary Burke 48 to 44%.
Charles Franklin is the director of the Marquette Law School Poll.
Welcome back, Charles.
Thanks. Good to be here.
Some people are confused about likely voters and registered voters and how those numbers sort of flip-flop.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. Now, first of all, of course, we know that not everybody turns out to vote. We're a high vote state, high turnout state. But there were 3 million voters at the polls in 2012. There were 2.5 million in the recall, 2.1 million in 2010. Somewhere between 500 and 900,000 people that showed up in November 2012 are not going to show up this time. So the idea of the likely voter screen is to try to figure out who's really going to go and show up at the polls this time. The thing that is so striking and that helps explain the difference is that for those people who are registered but not likely to vote, which means in our measure, likely voters say, I'm absolutely sure I'm going to vote, and everybody else is a less than likely voter. But among that group of less than likely voters, 61% still don't know enough about Mary Burke to have an opinion of her. Among those who are likely voters, only 25% don't have an opinion about her. And I think in that gap you see how tremendous the difference in attention and interest in politics can be among voters who are registered but may very well sit out this election. But because they know so little about her, it really builds up Scott Walker's advantage. If they voted, he would get 50% to her 32% among that group that know so little about Mary Burke.
Interesting. Now, did you see any big differences in this latest poll, or is it still a statistical dead heat?
I think the statistical dead heat is still with us, and it's really very striking that in May and in July and now in August, every one of those polls is inside the margin of error, regardless of whether we're talking likely voters or registered voters. And the changes from month to month are inside the margin of error. So the point of this is we are in a very stable period where the campaigns, especially over the last month and a half, are competing very hard in advertising and campaign messages, and neither of them is succeeding at the moment of gaining a clear upper hand on the other. There are a few bits of the message that seem to be getting through for both of them. Neither has managed to gain a big advantage.
Well, considering how polarized the state is that even likely to change?
You know, among partisans, 95% of Democrats are going for Burke, 96% of Republicans are going for Walker among likely voters. That's not likely to change. But among the rest of the electorate, especially independents who are also moderate and make up about 17% of the electorate, I think we do see some potential for shifting, especially on performance issues. So the jobs issue is big on that. There's new budget information out today that we'll see how that plays itself out. But those kinds of performance issues for the governor, and conversely, the question of, well, what would Mary Burke do as governor? How would she be different? How would she be better? I think those performance issues still can shift the vote over this two months and a few days yet to go.
You think the debates will move the needle? Will they be critical?
Traditionally, unless one side just has a spectacularly bad debate, these don't move the needle very much. But bad debates do happen. Ask Barack Obama after his first one in 2012. And so historically, we tend to overvalue the impact of those debates. People hear what they want to hear. But if a candidate really says something horrendously wrong, it can matter.
It's going to be an interesting 2 months plus a few days. Next poll is out in September? Or?
Yep, mid-September.
We'll see you then.
I'll see you in a little while. Thanks, Charles.
Thanks, Charles.